Let's talk about the PR campaign presentation. This assignment was constructed to simulate what you will have to go through many times over if you work in a PR or communication capacity. There will be many times that you will have to present your PR campaign or your plan to a client. You'll have to pitch the idea. PR is all about pitching. This particular assignment is pitching a major PR campaign to a client. So let's take a look at it. You've done all your work. You've learned all about your organization. You've learned all about how they communicate. You've developed a PR campaign using several key steps. Now you need to pitch the plan. There'll be a 15-minute presentation where you and your team will pitch the plan that you've developed to the client. The client may be your instructor, or perhaps if you're working with a live client, your instructor might bring in someone from the organization. Either way, you're to assume that your instructor is the client, and you are to be as professional as possible. Your instructor will act as the client. What you are to do is to provide a 15-minute presentation that pitches your PR campaign in the best possible light. Now, in order to do this, you have to remember, one, the person you're pitching it to works for the organization. So they have a vested interest in the organization. So there are several things you need to keep in mind. You don't want to belabor the organizational audit. In other words, you don't want to talk about the organization so much that you're just basically giving the client information that they already know. The second thing you don't want to do is you don't want to criticize the organization to a point where the client will become upset. Now, this seems very obvious, but I've seen this happen many times in pitches. What happens is a client will have these great ideas, a PR firm will have these great ideas. They'll come in and they'll start pitching their ideas to the client. They've done their organizational audit, they've done their communication audit, and they start saying, you guys are doing this, you should be doing this. If you do that, what's going to happen is you may have the client, you may turn off the client, and the client may think, well, geez, all you're doing is telling us what we're doing wrong. What you need to do is you need to provide constructive criticism in a summary fashion so that you point out some things that the client can do to be better, but yet you're not criticizing the client. That's very important to think about when you're pitching a plan to a client. The next thing you want to talk about are campaign goals. What are the goals of this campaign? Now, more than likely, the client has set that up for you prior to coming in, where the client might say, for instance, if they're a nonprofit, they may say, we want to build membership. We want to build volunteer membership. And so we want a PR campaign that will help us get volunteers. So a lot of times the goals and the objectives are set between the client and the PR firm prior to the PR campaign being executed. You also want to talk about the objectives, the tactics that you're going to use, your messages and themes of the PR campaign, the strategies and tactics, how you're going to get your messages across, what channels you're going to use, all of those things that go into the PR campaign and the PR plan, you want to summarize for the client. Now remember, the word summarize is very important because most clients are very busy folks. They have other things to do. They want to hear a summary of your plan. They don't want to hear an hour-long presentation on how you can save the world through this PR campaign. They want to be able to kind of the quick and dirty, here's what the PR campaign is going to do, here's what we can do for you, here's how we're going to do it, and here's how we're going to evaluate it. Once you do that, that's a quality pitch. Your presentation should be made to your instructor, as I said. You should dress appropriately, be professional, and try to simulate the real world as much as possible. This is going to help you when you get out and you start to work in the PR profession. You're going to have experience under your belt at pitching a plan.